The music was playing, the cameras were rolling, Neil Diamond was on stage. Everything was complete until it wasn't. The Tonight Actualization flat was electric that night. Neil Diamond, the Neil Diamond was assuming live. Not aloof sitting for an interview, not aloof accomplishing a quick acoustic number, a bounding performance. Candied Caroline, the song that had become an anthem, the song that stadiums sang together, the song that fabricated strangers feel like family. Jimmy Fallon stood by his desk, grinning, acclamation along. The admirers was on their feet, swaying, singing. The Roots provided backup, their accent bound and warm. This was what backward night television was declared to be. Joy, music, connection. Neil's articulation was affluent and strong, pushing every bend of the studio. 78 years old and still advantageous a date like he endemic it. 3 account into the song, article changed. From about abysmal in the studio, accomplished the cameras, accomplished the audience. In the colligiosity area, assembly administration and aggregation associates usually stood quietly, came articulation singing, not shouting, not interrupting, aloof singing, harmonizing. A changeable voice, clear, untrained, but pure, singing the advancement lyrics to Candied Caroline like she'd been built in alive them. Neil chock full midward. His aperture was accessible to sing the abutting line, but no complete came out. He angry against the antecedent of the voice. The bandage kept arena for edition 2 confined afore the Roots' agreeable administrator noticed, and signaled them to achromatize out. The audience, still swaying boring accomplished article was wrong, or not wrong, different. Article was accident that wasn't in the script. Jimmy looked confused. His smile faltered. He glanced at the producers in the wings. They were shrugging. Cypher knew what was happening. Neil's eyes were scanning the back of the studio. His hand, still captivation the microphone, had bargained to his side. And afresh his face changed. Not sadness, not anger, article else. Recognition, shock. His eyes abounding with tears so bound that the cameras bent the exact moment the aboriginal one agitated over. The articulation kept singing, accepting closer. And afresh she appeared, walking boring through the admirers' aisle, a woman, maybe 60, maybe older, cutting a simple dress, beard gray and pulled back. She wasn't aggravating to accomplish a scene, wasn't rushing, aloof walking, singing like she had every appropriate to be there. Security abashed to ambush her, standard protocol, but Neil aloft his hand, a aciculate complete gesture, stop, let her come. Jimmy watched frozen. The admirers watched. 300 bodies captivation their breath. Millions watching at home, confused but riveted. The woman accomplished the stage, chock full at the edge, still singing. Her articulation wavered now, effect bit by bit in. But she accomplished the line, accomplished the verse, a fresh chock full, and looked at Neil Diamond with eyes that captivated 40 years of article cipher abroad in that flat understood. Neil set his microphone bottomward on the stool, abaft him carefully, deliberately. Like he was agreement article angelic in a angelic spot. Afresh he absolved to the bend of the stage, bargained himself down, his knees protesting, but his assurance complete until he was sitting on the date floor, legs dangling. I akin with this woman. Rachel, he said, not into a microphone, aloof said it, quiet like they were the abandoned 2 bodies in the room. The woman nodded, tears alive now. Hi Neil, Jimmy chock-full mid-joke. The absolute flat froze. Cypher knew what to do. The producers were signaling to cut to commercial, but Jimmy coiled them off. Article in his gut told him this mattered. This wasn't an interruption. This was article real. Article that couldn't be appointed or scripted or controlled. Neil and Rachel stared at anniversary other 1,000 conversations accident in silence. Finally Neil batten again, loud abundant now that the microphones bent it. How continued has it been? 42 years, Rachel said. Her articulation was steady, but her easily weren't. They befuddled as she abashed a baby purse. 42 years aback you larboard Boston. Aback the aftermost time we sang together. The admirers was absolutely silent. Not the blackout of boredom, the blackout of witnessing article clandestine acceptable public. Article affectionate actuality aggregate with strangers. Neil's articulation absurd aback he spoke. I looked for you afterwards, I fabricated it. Afterwards the Aboriginal anthology hit, I went back to Boston, approved to acquisition you. You moved. No forwarding address. I anticipation, maybe you didn't appetite to be found. Rachel laughed a wet burst sound. I anticipation you'd forgotten. You got famous. I backward in Boston. Worked at the aforementioned booth for 30 years. Aloft 2 kids alone. Sang your songs to them aback they were babies. Told them their mom acclimated to sing with the Neil Diamond afore he was the Neil Diamond. I never forgot. Neil said, Rachel, I wrote Candide Caroline's Cerebration about you, about us, about singing calm in that basement bar area cipher cared who we were. You were the abandoned actuality who believed I'd accomplish it aback I didn't accept it myself. The camera abettor was crying. You could see the anatomy abashed slightly. Jimmy had his duke over his mouth. The Roots bag man had his arch down, amateur shaking. The admirers was a sea of tissues and wet faces. Rachel accomplished into her purse, pulled out article small, a photograph, faded, edges worn. She captivated it out to Neil. I kept this us, 1979. That bar on Cambridge Street. Your captivation, that abhorrent guitar you bought at a assurance shop. I'm cutting that antic dress I anticipation fabricated me attending like Joni Mitchell. Neil took the photograph, stared at it. Two kids, adolescent and athirst and abounding of dreams that seemed impossible. He'd accomplished his, she'd let chastening go. Abaft the scenes, Fallon fabricated a accommodation that defied every producer's expectation. He absolved out from abaft his desk, went to the date edge, sat bottomward abutting to Neil, didn't say anything, aloof sat, a quiet accepting that this moment was bigger than the show, bigger than the schedule, bigger than the format. Why now, Neil asked Rachel. Why tonight? Afterwards 42 years, why tonight? Rachel's face crumpled. Because I'm dying, Neil. Pancreatic cancer, date 4. I accept maybe 3 months. And I couldn't. Leave this apple afterwards cogent you that those nights we sang calm were the best nights of my life. That you weren't the abandoned one who fabricated it. I fabricated it too, aloof differently. I aloft acceptable kids. I had a acceptable life. But I bear you to apperceive that I never chock full singing. And I never chock full actuality appreciative that I knew you afore the apple did. The flat wasn't breathing. Jimmy had tears active bottomward his face. He didn't clean them, aloof let them fall. Neil stood up, continued his hand. Rachel took it. He pulled her up assimilate the stage, helped her like she was fabricated of glass. Afresh he best up his microphone, handed it to her, best up the advancement mic from the stand, looked at the Roots agreeable administrator from the top, Neil said. The way we acclimated to do it, aloof me and Rachel. The bandage started arena soft, gentle. Neil Diamond and Rachel, two bodies who'd been strangers for 42 years but new anniversary other souls, sang Candide Caroline together. Not a able duet, not a complete performance, but real, raw. Two choir that remembered how to accord because some things your anatomy doesn't balloon alike, aback your apperception tries to move on. Subscribe and leave a animadversion because the best able allotment of this adventure is still ahead. Aback the song ended, the admirers didn't aloof applaud. They stood, they sobbed, they watched as Neil captivated Rachel in a hug that lasted continued abundant that the producers chock-full signaling to cut away. Jimmy stood off to the side, giving them space, tears still alive bottomward his face. The Roots played a bendable instrumental, and for 3 count and 47 seconds, the tonight's actualization wasn't a actualization at all. It was a reunion, a goodbye, a moment of grace. Aback they assuredly separated. Neil kept captivation Rachel's hand. Looked at Jimmy. Can she breach for the blow of the show? Jimmy nodded. Couldn't speak. Aloof nodded. Rachel sat in the bedfellow armchair for the actual 20 minutes. Didn't say much. Didn't charge to. Aloof sat while Neil talked about his career, his music, his life. And every time he told a story he'd glance at Rachel, blockage if she remembered. She consistently did. At the end of the show, aback the camera chock full rolling, Neil absolved Rachel backstage. They talked for 2 hours, exchanged numbers, fabricated promises to breach and touch. Neil abiding for her to accept advanced row seats to every one of his actual bout dates, abiding for her medical bills to be covered. Not publicly, not for credit, aloof because that's what you do for the actuality who believed in you aback acceptance was all you had. Rachel abounding 4 concerts before she got too ailing to travel. Neil visited her in Boston twice, sang to her in her auberge room, brought his guitar, the abhorrent one from the assurance boutique that he'd kept all these years. They sang calm one after most time, badly, beautifully. 2 older companies sang goodbye the abandoned way they knew how. Rachel anesthetized abroad 3 months afterwards that tonight actualization appearance. Neil was on date in Chicago aback he got the news. He chock-full mid-con told the admirers what had happened, sang Candide Caroline a cappella. 15,000 bodies sang with him. For Rachel, for the woman who believed in a cipher from Boston who became somebody, but this is the moment no one in the flat and no one watching at home anytime saw coming. At Rachel's funeral, her babe approached Neil, handed him an envelope. Mom, capital U to accept this. Inside was a letter, handwritten anachronous the day afterwards the tonight actualization appearance. It said, Dear Neil, acknowledge you for absolution, me sing with you one added time. Acknowledge you for remembering. Acknowledge you for authoritative my aftermost months beggarly something. I'm not abashed to die now because I got to acquaint you what I bear to acquaint you, and I got to apprehend you sing again. Not on a record, not on TV with me, like the old days. You asked me already, I never pursued music. I never told you the truth. The accuracy is I did accompany it. I pursued it by alert to you, by watching you succeed, by alive that the boy I sang with became the man who brought joy to millions. That was my music. You were my music. Acknowledge you for the allowance of actuality remembered. Love consistently, Rachel. Neil kept that letter. Read it afore every concert, and every time he sang Sweet Caroline, he committed it to Rachel. Not publicly aloof in his heart, the woman who believed in him afore he was account assertive in. Jimmy Fallon never forgot that night either. Started befitting a photo of Neil and Rachel on his desk, not arresting to cameras, aloof for him. A admonition that sometimes the best moments on television are the ones you about cut to bartering through, the ones that breach the format, the ones that admonish you that beneath the jokes and the amateur and the celebrity interviews, television can still do what it was meant to do. Connect animal beings to animal beings, the blow went viral, over 100 actor views. But the comments weren't about the performance, they were about the moment, about Neil stopping, about Rachel singing, about Jimmy absolution it happened, about the admonition that anybody has a Rachel, addition who believed in them afore they believed in themselves, addition who shaped who they became, addition who deserves to be remembered. Share and subscribe. Accomplish abiding this adventure is never forgotten. Neil Diamond retired from touring the afterward year, Parkinson's disease. But in his final concert he had a abruptness guest, Rachel's daughter. She sang Candied Caroline with him, her articulation green but pure, aloof like her mother's. And aback they finished, Neil said into the microphone. This one was for Rachel, the woman who accomplished me that authoritative. It isn't about fame, it's about canonizing who believed in you aback you were nobody. The photograph from 1979. 2 kids in a basement bar with absurd dreams backward on Jimmy Fallon's board for years. A admonition that the best television isn't scripted, it's witnessed. And sometimes the greatest allowance you can accord addition is absolution them accomplishment their song. Rachel got to sing one aftermost time, Neil got to say acknowledge you, and millions of bodies got to remember, we all accept addition who believed in us first. Don't delay 42 years to acquaint them it mattered.